Dear Minister Kuleba, dear Dmytro, Mr. Chargé d'Affaires, esteemed members of the Ukrainian delegation, dear colleagues and friends, I am deeply honored to introduce His Excellency Mr. Dmytro Kuleba, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, who joins us today in addressing a very interesting topic with direct implications for both our countries, namely the geopolitical developments during and after the pandemic. Minister Kuleba is today with me in Bucharest, kindly responding to my invitation to pay a visit to Romania. We have discussed over the phone in the last month many times, and we have addressed many important issues. Today we had very open, very substantive discussions in a very friendly atmosphere, and it is our wish, our common wish, to build together not only a personal relationship but also a very good relationship between our countries. I personally value Minister Kuleba's expertise and approach. I'm very pleased that he could join us today also for this part of our reunion, and the very participation of Ukrainian foreign minister to the annual reunion of the Romanian heads of mission is a very important statement of our determination to move forward. Romania and Ukraine should work harder together. We have a long border between us, which is presenting with challenges and opportunities. During the pandemic, we have assisted some 900 Ukrainian citizens to transit our territory. We have decided to support Ukraine in the fight against COVID-19 with additional support from the Romanian Agency for Development and the Romanian government, which will be soon operational. There are several critical aspects in which our approaches coincide to a very high degree: the stability and security in the Black Sea, in building a strong and prosperous transatlantic link, in our commitment to EU values, to transatlantic, Euro-Atlantic integration. And there are also others. Both of us have participated a couple of days ago in the UN Security Council meeting on Belarus, Romania and Ukraine being co-sponsors of this meeting. Before we start, let me give you some details about our distinguished guest. Minister Kuleba has served as in the Ukrainian permanent mission to the OSCE and has been the permanent representative of Ukraine to the Council of Europe. But more than this, he has an extensive background on issues that are so relevant to the challenges we face today. He introduced the concepts of digital diplomacy and strategic communications in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine when working at the Minister's office. And without further ado, dear Dmytro, I warmly welcome you to our meeting today, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Bogdan. I immediately accepted your invitation to visit Bucharest, and very much in the spirit of digital diplomacy, I appreciate that the invitation came on my WhatsApp account, and I immediately responded to you in the same manner. So we can already use this example as a pattern for communication between foreign ministers in the digital age. Dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to speak in front of you today. I must confess I also have my own vested interest in attending your gathering. Within months, I will organize my first ambassadorial reunion as foreign minister. So I'm glad, I appreciate this chance to take away best practices of Romania with me. I would like to address two key issues today. The first one is security. When When one looks at the map, it takes only 1 second to realize that security of Ukraine means security of Romania and vice versa. We belong to a very complicated region, and, you know, you cannot escape geography. You have to learn how to live in the landscape. While you probably cannot physically observe heavy militarization of Crimea or fires shot in the east of Ukraine, you can definitely feel the implications of them for your national security. I assume you might be interested to know how to handle an aggressive neighbor. I have only one single advice to you: prevent. The sooner you take decisions and actions which strategically demotivate your adversary, the better your chances to prevail are. If 2014 can teach us a lesson, it would be that everything is possible. I am regularly asked now, these days, whether I imagine Russian army entering Belarus. And I respond, guys, you know, recall 2014. Everything is possible, even the most unimaginable. What may seem unimaginable today may unfold in front of your eyes at the expense of your national security and interests tomorrow. Hence, my advice is prevent. However high the price of prevention may seem, trust me, the price of failure to prevent will be much higher. At the end of July, a ceasefire in the east of Ukraine was hard to imagine. I was my first month in the office as foreign minister, deeply engaged in very active and dynamic contacts at all levels to make sure that ceasefire comes into force, that we make a deal. It was extremely difficult. I was rather skeptical, and yet we achieved it. Ceasefire in the east lasted for 41 days. Efforts were taken on both sides on the front line to ensure that it holds. However, the ceasefire was unraveled by deliberate targeting of Ukrainian forces in several locations this weekend. One serviceman was killed in action and another one wounded in actions. We also heard threats, accusations, and ultimatums by Russia-led illegal armed formations in Donetsk. Anything can happen at any given moment, and any country in this part of the world should be ready for any twist in the political foreign policy scenario. I would like to assure you, to take this opportunity and assure you that Ukraine will continue to show its will for a peaceful settlement of the conflict and constructive dialogue, be it Normandy, Minsk, or any other format. However, we know who we're dealing with, and I would like to emphasize that unwavering continuity of the political pressure on Russia from the European Union and bilaterally really matters. Any speculations about the new EU-Russia dialogue or another reset in relations with Russia could only weaken the fragile construction of peace-aimed process. Pressure is something far broader than just sanctions. But allow me to be clear while speaking about them. Sanctions are not a vaccine. One shot is never enough. It's rather a therapy that has to last as long as necessary to see the illness gone. Be it the military attack on my country, cyber or disinformation attacks elsewhere, or the recent poisoning of Alexei Navalny, it remains clear Russia is still sick with aggression. and therefore the treatment should continue and be further tightened up. One can hardly feel secure with an illegally occupied and heavily militarized territory within reach. Crimea must be deoccupied in the interests of all. Even in the interests of Russia, since failure in Crimea will free it from imperial sentiments and prove it should take an alternative peaceful path to security and prosperity. In order to boost the processes related to the deoccupation of Crimea, Ukraine will shortly share with partners, including Bucharest among the first ones, its vision for Crimean platform, new special format of our international coordination, aimed at the deoccupation of Crimea and ensuring protection of human rights while the peninsula is occupied. We will be happy if Romania joins us in these efforts and becomes one of the leading forces of the Crimean platform. One last word will be on NATO. Romania's political leadership became one of the key factors that made NATO recognize Ukraine as enhanced opportunities partner. And I would like to say two simple words here. Thank you. Excellencies, the second issue I would like to touch upon is trade. We continue to build bridges to develop our economic ties. COVID hits economies and societies, and we have to fight. If regular bridges do not help, we use ferry bridges, as Ukraine and Romania recently demonstrated. Trade makes nations stronger. Ukraine's and Romania's potential in trade is important not only for bilateral relations, but also for security and prosperity of the region as a whole. And I would like this issue, our bilateral trade, to be considered as a factor of regional stability. I would like to particularly mention three elements. It's energy, infrastructure, and European Green Deal. When it comes to energy, we cannot do a lot on electricity, gas, hydrogen as energy of the future. And I'm happy that today we, together with Bogdan, announced that that two our countries will establish a working group on energy issues, and our experts will sit down to unlock huge potential of our bilateral cooperation. Ukraine is a country that enjoys deep and comprehensive free trade agreement with the European Union, and Romania, as a very important member of the European Union, should set up teams to turn potential of our trade into joint successful projects. If you ask an average Ukrainian why he or she wants Ukraine to become a member of the European Union, the first answer will be to live a better life. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess this was the case for Romania some 20 years ago too. Trade, along with values, is the best tool to boost integration of Ukraine into the European Union, to strengthen this part of Europe, to make us more competitive in a world disrupted by new technologies and COVID threats. I would like to assure you that Ukraine stands firmly on this path of integration to the EU and seeks full access to EU markets. Trade is crucial. Security and trade are two fundamental elements on which I focus as foreign minister and which I believe shape today's world. For that reason, I would like to say two things. Ensure security and trade. And thank you. Thank you for your attention. I wish you a very successful ambassadorial reunion, good health, and success in your endeavors.
Well, thank you so much, Minister, for your insightful contribution to the works of our reunion. Aici se încheie sesiunea publică. This ends the public session of our reunion. Okay. Now I believe we are ready to take a few questions from my